Party people, welcome. I'm streaming a live 45-45 game against this guy. I sat here and I looked over this guy's handle, and I honestly could not tell you how to pronounce it. So I'm not going to try. I don't want to embarrass myself. But let's battle. And I just previewed this new feature, Zen mode. Check this out. Bam. Look how minimalist and beautiful this is. Hiding your opponent's rating, hiding the notation, hiding the chat. Well, there goes my prep. Okay. I was reasonably certain that we were going to get a Catalan. That's false. One other thing about Zen mode that's pretty cool is if you hover, this thing kind of fades in and out. God, that is sweet. All right, so we are going to have some kind of a symmetrical English here. We shall see what kind. G6 would be the most popular move, after which I would go G3. It's also possible to go E5 immediately, or knight F6 and go into the English four knights. Knight F6, okay, I'm just going to play G3. Bishop G7, Bishop G2. All usual stuff. Now there's E6, which was the Fischer favorite, but it's also very popular to go knight F6. Knight H6 is even a move. D6 is, in my opinion, slightly underrated and moderately annoying. And E5 again would be, of course, a move. A6. What? So obviously the idea is rook A to B8 and B5. Not sure I've ever seen this before. It's a pretty well-known position to go A3, rook B8, rook B1, B5 takes, B4 takes. That's possible. And then a lot of times this happens from the 5A3 move order instead of the move order that we reached this position from, but it's possible either way. I'm just considering whether or not there are any independent options that would be worth exploring here. Like, off the top of my head, it seems a little bit ridiculous to go H4, but it's also worth considering E3, I guess. E3, rook B8, D4, striking in the center when my opponent is initiating some kind of a flank action. Of course, I could just castle. The problem is the position after A3, rook B8, rook B1, B5 takes, B4 takes is not particularly exciting for white. It's not bad either. I'm trying to remember my prep in that position. I've looked at it, and I recall vaguely that I thought that I thought white should go, so A3, rook B8, rook B1, B5 takes, B4 takes. I believe D5 is the main move in that position. D4, knight F6, and I think I thought bishop F4 was good. Ay. Anywho, that's the only position that I have any moderate familiarity with, so I'll go for it. It isn't particularly exciting though for both players. That's for sure. So the good thing is my team only needs a draw, so I think we've won all 3 games so far. And I think, yeah, knight f6, d4, d5 would be the same. D5, d4, knight f6 would be the same position. There is d5, d4, bishop f5. Okay, but he goes e5. Now, I know in the Costin book, I thought d4 was the move. That was my understanding. d4, e takes d4, knight d5, knight f6, bishop d4, e takes d4, knight d5. I think knight f6, bishop g5, h6. There's some tactic. I can't. There's some tactic involving, I think, an early d6 from black, where you can play like bishop takes h6. And yeah, it's useless to try and remember that now. But I think d4, e takes d4, knight d5, knight g to e7, which looks the most natural, is just very annoying. Bishop g5 is very annoying in that case because I'm getting into the f6 square. You know, like on h6, there's bishop f6. It really comes down to whether on takes and here knight f6, whether or not I should go bishop g5 or takes. Bishop g5 is the move that I sort of remember in my head. I don't think I have much of a choice besides d4 here. Allowing him to go d5 on the next move, like castles d5, would be pretty catastrophic, I think. So I think I sort of have to do this now. And if you decide to go knight d5 right away, then knight g to e7 sort of forces me to take, and then I think black's position is just very pleasant. Again, he would take with the queen, and d5 would be a threat. So I think d4 is actually forced. I don't think knight takes d4 is particularly exciting. Reason being, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, e takes d4, knight d5. Now knight f6, I think I can just go queen takes d4. Point being, of course, that there's this pin. So he pretty much has to go e takes d4, knight d5, and then I think knight f6 is basically the only move. Yeah. And now I have to decide upon bishop g5 or something else. I'm not sure off the top of my head if there's actually anything besides bishop g5. Bishop g5 h6 was something, if I recall. I don't remember. Bishop g5 h6. Maybe it was knight takes f6, bishop takes f6, bishop d2. He can't castle, and if d6, there's bishop h6, rook takes h6, queen c1. It all seems very complicated. I would guess that knight f6, bishop h6 is playable for white. at least somewhat annoying. But knight f6, queen f6 is obviously what black would play, and then I mean there's bishop g5. Presumably he puts the lady somewhere. I guess there's also bishop f4. It's maybe knight f6, queen f6. Bishop g5 has the interesting point that if something like queen f5, then bishop f4, and if something like rook b6, then I get to stick the bishop on d6. Whereas if I just go here, takes rook b6. I mean, he has rook a8 too, but bishop d6 is impossible because the queen protects. So that might be an idea. But maybe he goes queen e6 instead. Even queen d6 is possible, I think, right? Because bishop f4, knight e5. But I guess I get to take on, probably not that way, but I get to take on d4 in some capacity. I don't know. That looks kind of unclear to me. One question is bishop g5. I'm just clearly not organizing this in any organized or acceptable fashion here, like bouncing back and forth between candidates and stuff. Bishop g5, h6. I'm just wondering if I can just literally lop everything off. Castles, let's say. Queen d2, perhaps. And just go rook d1 and take this idiot. It's completely unexciting, but safe. Given that my opponent completely outprepared me here, I need to... Well played, sir. Friggin' a6. Okay, so the basic candidates, I think, are takes, bishop g5, queen to e6, and then maybe something like bishop f4, or going bishop g5, h6, and sort of feels like just lopping everything off and then trying to win back the d pawn. Okay, so let's look at bishop g5 first. Bishop g5, h6, takes. Let's say castles, queen to d2, maybe something like d6, rook f to d1. There's my two main concerns there would be bishop f5 and rook to e8. Rook to e8, the point being that after knight d4, queen d4, rook takes d4, there's rook takes e2. What the heck am I looking at there? Yeah, I'm still down a pawn there. I could go... Yeah, I don't know about that line. Yeah, bishop f4 here, knight d5, bishop b8, knight c3 is obviously a blowout, so that's not happening. Just making sure I don't have any other reasonable moves here. Is there any reason to go... maybe the dynamic English line was bishop g5, h6, takes, bishop f4, d6, and then bishop takes, h6. That's more forcing. Rook h6, queen c1 with a double attack here and here. Maybe that was the idea. Slick. Maybe not that good, but slick nonetheless. I remember there being something wrong with that, though. That was like one of the things that Tony Costin posted about on Chess Pub a while back. I don't think that's a line that I want to go into, but it is good to know that that was it. It feels to me like if bishop g5 h6, if I have to take everything off, I'd rather maybe not even. I'd rather just take off immediately. Force queen takes f6 and then go bishop g5. Hoping for something like queen f5, bishop f4, and bishop to d6 or something like that. Okay, so takes, bishop g5, queen to e6. Looks sensible. How am I getting back my pawn? This is a serious concern. So, knight f6, queen f6, bishop g5, queen to e6. Do I castle or do I go bishop f4 right away? I don't think it probably doesn't make much of a difference. So takes here, queen e6. Let's say bishop f4 first. I maybe gain more from having his king in the center than he gains from having my king in the center. You know, if I can drum up a threat, a move quicker, and not insert castles and castles, that might make more logical sense. So takes, bishop g5, queen e6, bishop f4, rook a8, maybe rook b6. Yeah, I don't know if I actually have anything there. I mean, black has some issues, but it's not particularly... Yeah, I'm just not sure if I actually have anything there. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. This is a tough decision. Queen, or not, bishop g5 or knight f6. I think bishop g5 is the actual main move, but I'm having a hard time working out why. h6, takes. Castles, queen d2. You know, queen d2 does gain a move there, though, that I didn't really think about before. He's got a pawn on h6, so maybe that's part of the allure. Okay, so let's say bishop g5, h6. This kind of changes things now because I sort of gain a move. So h6, knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes, castles. Let's just say, he has d6 there too, but let's just say castles, queen d2, king g7, protecting h6. Then rook f to d1. Doesn't really have time for d6 anymore. He sort of, if he wants to be obstinate, has to go rook to e8. I would presume in that position that rook b2, d3 is annoying. So maybe not. I mean, maybe I can just take it with the e-pawn, but I prefer to not do that. Honestly, maybe I can just go bishop f1. That seems kind of ridiculous, but it's possible. I think I I think I like the safety of that. Rather than playing knight takes f6, queen takes f6, bishop g5, and then it's hard for me to see how I'm getting enough play or getting my pawn back in this case. But I think with trading off the dark squared bishops, this bishop is hard to... it's hard for this bishop to have influence on this weak pawn. I think maybe trading off this thing for this thing is in my favor if I'm trying to win back the d4 pawn. So I think I'm just gonna go with this. I'm gonna take a sip of this Diet Dr. Pepper I have. I need caffeine right now. I also have some Skittles. Super healthy brain food for this match. Yeah, I did a lot of preparation on the open Catalan, or not the open Catalan, the closed Catalan, because my opponent had played a lot of games in that. I'm not surprised that he deviated, but okay, I suppose this is just more forcing. So let's do that. Also worth considering, actually, is bishop f6, knight takes f6, queen takes f6, queen d2 immediately. This is an interesting place to stop and think. Presumably he went to the loo or something. Yeah, so let's just take these things. Okay, so now queen d2 are castles. Queen d2 is a little bit more subtle, isn't it? But I'm wondering if you can just castle anyway. Queen d2 castles. Queen h6. Rook e8. And I've gotten my pawn back, but my queen is off sides. There's no real threats there. d3 is an issue. All right. Let's just get castled, because I think now in this case, for instance, maybe queen d2 is... I suppose he could go rook e8 in this position as well, but maybe... Well, he doesn't even want to bother thinking about it. That's fine. Yeah, and I think rook f to d1 is pretty much the only logical move. I guess I could consider going rook b to d1, rook to e8, rook f to e1. That might actually be the cleanest, honestly. Rook b to d1, rook to e8. So rook b to d1, rook to e8, rook f to e1. There is rook e4. When I would like to be able to play knight to e1, knight to c2 to bump this rook out of the e4 square, but humorously I can't because I put a rook on this square like a dumbass. I guess rook e4, maybe I could just be really annoying with some other random knight move, knight g5 or knight h4. I'm not sure if that's worth really messing around with, though. So it's really the perennial problem that all chess players have. Which rook? And people universally choose the wrong one. It's always the wrong rook. trick question. It feels more natural to go rook f to d1, but there is value in having this rook project. So let me think about this for a hot second. And these decisions sort of matter because on a practical level, I don't think white really has much of anything. So what's going to happen if I win my pawn back is it's probably just going to drift into a relatively easy to play and probably fairly equal ending, and I won't need that much time after that. But if I screw this up and I allow him to like keep this pawn or favorably ditch it or something, I won't be particularly happy that I didn't use enough time up front to make sure that I didn't get into trouble. So I just want to be precise for a second, for once in my life. Yeah, this is not how I envision this game going, but what can you do? So rook b to d1, rook e8, rook f to e1, b to d1, rook to e8, rook f to e1. What's a black player to do there? Yeah, there is d3. That's one of the issues, and it might even be possible in this position. Point being that queen takes d3, knight takes b4. So something like rook b to d1, d3 immediately. If I have to take with the pawn, I'm not all that interested in playing this way. I think that's probably about equal, but it's just not at all exciting. So maybe I should just go rook f to d1. Keep the b4 pawn protected. So rook f to d1, rook to e8 is the critical line. I don't know. Again, rook f to d1, rook to e8, rook b2. There's at least d3, and I win my pawn back, but it's not a particularly exciting position for me, honestly. He just goes d6, and I think it's pretty much equal at that point. I'm trying to win my pawn back. I mean, if I could win my pawn back for nothing, like if I could just play rook f to d1 and knight takes d4, he would be worse because this d pawn is backward. But it's not easy for me to wrangle this idiot back up in a way that doesn't give him sufficient counterplay, which is why this is a very acceptable position for black. My first thought is that maybe I could go rook f to d1, rook to e8, knight to e1, repositioning the knight to c2, possibly looking to play bishop takes c6, b takes c6, and then knight takes d4. He would have a bishop versus a knight, but I think in that specific structure, if I were to get in d takes c6, he would have some long-term problems with the weakness of the c pawn, perhaps. In any case, I think it would be about equal. I mean, my knight sitting on this wonderful d4 square is, I think, not at all worse than a bishop. So rook f to d1, rook e8, knight to e1, and that move also has the advantage that he can't go d6 because his dude on c6 would be hanging. So if I go knight to e1, let's say he goes just bishop to b7. I go knight to c2. Again, maybe there I'm threatening to take on c6 now and then take there. Of course, the bishop on the long diagonal wouldn't be half bad if I do just lop that thing off. I'm not sure. Well, in any case, I think rook b to d1, d3 is good enough to convince me that I should just play rook f to d1. I'll decide whether or not I want to go knight to e1, knight to c2 after he plays rook e8, presumably quite quickly. Yeah. I could go bishop f1 here and just be like really obnoxious. Bishop f1 would sort of force rook to e4. He doesn't have another move. Like a move like d6, knight takes d4, I think would just be very equal. Maybe even better for white. I think he would be forced to go rook e4. Hey, love. Say hi to YouTube. I'm embarrassing my wife. If only I had the camera set up. What, you don't want to see people to see your sunburn? Or are you wearing scrubs? That got her to leave. Okay, so main candidate moves at this point are the very sad retreats to the first rank. Bishop f1 is sort of intriguing to me, actually, because the rook doesn't strike me as being all that well placed on this square. So if he goes rook e4, I think that's pretty much forced. I'm wondering if I can just go back. Or maybe queen d3, actually. So maybe bishop f1, rook to e4, queen to d3. But just d5. Just d5 in that case. So that move's stupid. Bishop f1, rook e4. Do I actually have a threat if I just go back? So let's say rook e4, bishop g2, and then he just goes like d6. Let's say he goes just bishop b7. That seems more solid. Yeah, I don't really have a threat. I mean, I feel like I would just want to go knight e1 in that case anyway. You'd go rook to e8, and then I'd go knight to c2, and that would be the same position actually as going knight to e1, bishop b7, knight to c2 immediately. So is it worth forcing him to play rook e4 though, just in case he doesn't play it and he gives me an easy game? Maybe. How did I end up in this much of a hassle out of nowhere? I guess choosing this a3 b4 plan. It's the only position I understood though. I could also go bishop f1, rook e4, and then knight e1, being a little bit more coy. Of course, any move of the d pawn would be undesirable after bishop back to g2. So again, he would just go bishop g7. I think I would go bishop g2. He gets to put his rook somewhere. I go knight to c2, and it's basically the same position as before. He does get the option to like put his rook on maybe this square or this square. I don't know if that actually makes any difference. Probably not. Okay, maybe I should just go knight to e1. Knight to e1 strictly stops these moves the best, and he pretty much, I don't know, it looks to, does he have anything other than bishop b7? It's hard to find another move. I wish I had something better than these moves. Yeah, I'm gonna try bishop f1. I honestly might even chicken out and just go rook e4, bishop g2, hope for rook e8, bishop f1, etc. I have not been playing all that well lately, unfortunately. Part of it is I just don't have as much time for chess as I used to, but yeah, my performance in this season of the 45 plus 45 league, honestly, last season wasn't great either. I think I had 5 out of 8 or 5.5 out of 8, which is not bad, of course, but not amazing. My rating has dropped from over the past maybe year and a half from a little over 2,400 to just like 2,300. So yeah, I guess rook e4, bishop g2, bishop b7 would be the way he would play on, actually. Yeah. And then I think I pretty much have to go knight e1. He can go rook e7, for instance, and knight to c2. I don't know. Maybe black is slightly more comfortable there. Wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. By the way, awesome news. Game of Thrones starting tonight. I don't know what time, but I will be there. Get excited. I can't wait, man. I'm so excited. I'm going to crack open these Skittles while I wait for this gentleman to decide on rook e4 or something else. I openly apologize if you can hear me chewing. I have a very serious condition where hearing people's mouth noises drives me absolutely insane. And so I'm sorry that I'm doing it to any of you guys that also hate it. Wait, can I mute my mic for a second? I don't know how to mute this stupid thing. I don't know if I can. Maybe I can do it on XSplit for a hot second while I chew on these Skittles. No, obviously I have no idea how to use XSplit. I'll just sit really far away from the camera for a second, or my mic for a second. And this, folks, is why I don't typically stream 45 plus 45 games. There's just too much downtime where you're subjected to just me talking about random nonsense. This Zen mode's pretty cool, though, is it not? I mean, this is clean. Look how pretty this is. Look at that. Can you see that? Oh, you really can't. If you hover over the menu up top, it also sort of fades back in. This is baller. This implementation is sweet. Come on, this is awesome. Oh, it works on this too. This is so sweet. I don't know. Pretty sure this guy's French. I don't. Maybe this means something in French that I should understand. Nunc, is that like none? I'm sure they don't pronounce it like that. I know his name is Laurent. I don't think he would mind me telling you that his first name is Laurent. That doesn't narrow it down much. I guess I'm also totally butchering that. That's how Americans would say his name. A Frenchman would say his name with the French R, and they wouldn't pronounce the T. It'd be like Laurent or something like that. Obviously, my French R is terrible. I'm gonna get made fun of for just saying that. French R is just not a human sound. Like rouge, rose. Those are words, right? Pink and red. Red and pink. Bishop G2, Bishop G2. Is Bishop G2 Queen to E7 possible? Might be. Crap. Did I miss that? Yeah, could be. Bishop G2, Queen E7, what do I do? Maybe Rook B2, but in that case, because now D3 I can take with the Queen, but yeah, maybe. Okay, so that's a good question. So if Queen E7, Rook B2, what happens? I didn't think I had to be scared of D3, but D3, Queen takes D3, Rook takes B4. Yeah, so Rook takes B4, Rook takes B4, Knight takes B4. It's an interesting finesse, actually. If Queen E6, rook b2, d3, takes, queen c3 check, picks up the knight, actually. But on queen e7, you have an extra, you have an extra protector of the b4 square. So queen e7, bishop g2, queen e7, rook b2, d3, takes, queen to c3 does not pick up the knight. Now it does maybe still look kind of good for me. Let's say he goes king h7. Queen to c7 is kind of annoying, is it not? Maybe it's not. Yeah, okay, maybe that's nothing. That's nothing for me. Yeah, but what do I do then? 91 maybe? 91, then maybe queen c7 isn't all that exciting. So bishop g2, queen e7, rook e1 is also possible. But again, maybe... Yeah, but d3 there takes is probably a better version than I'm getting usually. I'm gaining a tempo on the rook, and my rook's already on the e file. If he has to play rook takes e1, rook takes e1, I gain a tempo on the queen. That's maybe... but b4 would be hanging in that case. Jeez. Maybe 91 first, just to, yeah, I'm just going to play this. I don't want to think about the consequences of bishop g2, queen e7. I'm just going to put all of my pieces in the back rank and hope to survive. If I lose, at least I have delicious Skittles. I don't know, guys. probably give myself some insulin for these Skittles. I do know that. Not the most exciting position in the world. Not one that's particularly great for me either. I'm going to lose my wedding ring at some point. I'm perpetually just taking it off and flinging it around and spinning it. It's like a really expensive fidget spinner. I'm actually going to pause the recording. Just to, I don't want you guys to have to sit here for like 15 minutes in silence if he's going to sit there for that long. So once he makes a move, I'll resume, okay? BRB. We've got to move. Holy God, is it a doozy. G5. What is the idea? That's deep. I'm a little perplexed by this one. Maybe he's worried about knight d3 to f4 to d5. I have no friggin' clue. Knight c2. It's deep. Maybe he also wants to go knight c2, bishop b7, bishop g2, rook e7, let's say, bishop takes c6, queen takes c6. I have to stop the mate with f3, and then he wants to go g4. It's sophisticated. Probably not bad. I mean, maybe not. I mean, I don't know. I have knight d4 in that position, and then maybe I'm not worse somehow. After all, his king is pretty loose too. I don't know. So it's something like but there, rook e5, maybe I can take here immediately. Takes, then knight back to f3 actually, and I gain a move. So here, maybe rook e7 instead. Knight to c2. I have no idea. One line I'm looking at is bishop g2, rook e7, knight to c2, bishop b7, bishop takes, queen takes f3, g4, knight takes d4, queen to b6, and then just king g2. Protecting all the stuff and getting my king out of this pin and protecting the f3 square. It seems like I'm holding on. I mean, playing g4 is very committal. Of course, the f5 square is already weak to knight f5, and there's queen attacking the h6 square. I can play queen f4 now, so it's not without risk playing g4. But all right, let's do this first. Again, rook e5 I can just take here immediately, I think. I'm expecting rook e7, just in case he wants to double in the future. Rook e8 I'm sure is totally fine too. It's not clear necessarily that black wants to play rook b to e8, but you know, the c file eventually and the a file will also be a good square, so maybe he wants to keep his rooks connected with rook e8. Makes sense. Let's go knight to c2. d3 is no longer really a thing. So I think kind of whether or not I'm pulling back into equality or not is based on what the evaluation after this is. Because I'm back in the d4 pawn, but I do have some moderate problems with having played f3. And given him the battery on the long diagonal, that's sort of sketchy. But again, black does also have some structural issues, I think, compared to white. So having played h6, g5, and having this backward d7 pawn compared to white's very compact structure. And the knight on d4 is very good. So there are some redeeming qualities to white's position as well. Bought a new bass recently. Honestly, I really just want to be playing bass right now. A nice Warwick. It is the signature model of the bassist for 311, Aaron Wills. People call him Peanut, though. So I have the Warwick Peanut signature. It's quite a nice bass. Anyone who's familiar with Warwick basses, they look like, you know, they're all wood. They usually don't have any glossy finish or powder coat or paint job. They just keep the natural wood finish. Very nice. It's a 5-string. It has I still haven't figured out what the hell this thing is for. It has a hip shot detuner on the low B string. So on a 4-string bass, you get the E, A, D, and G strings. And on a 5-string bass, you typically get a lower string than the low E. It's a B string. And typically, you won't hear a lot of people actually using the low B string all that much, or at least not the actual B, the lowest note B, because it's low. I mean, it's pretty dirty. And this bass has a little trigger, a switch on the tuner for the B string that allows you to flick it down to an A and then flick it back up if you want to. And I literally cannot find a use for wanting to go all the way down to that low A. Oh, man. So I'm sort of feeling like I'm pretty close to solving my opening problems here, which is sad because I'm white. But yeah, I think I was surprised in the opening phase and didn't get a position that I'm all that familiar with. Now, is there a keyboard shortcut for Zen mode? If I hit Z, say Z should shoot me out of Zen mode here. Um, my opponent had mostly played against c4. Actually, he pretty much exclusively played e6, and against knight f3, he was usually going knight f6, and I think in most cases going e6 and d5. So I was pretty ready to play a Catalan. But again, one of the downsides to my repertoire is that you're sort of at least a little bit kind of a sitting duck for preparation, just because people know I'm going to play knight f3 and g3 against pretty much everything. And in this specific case, it wouldn't have really mattered if I would have played one g3 or one c4 like I do sometimes, depending on. Sometimes I'll look at my opponent's repertoires and see that they play different things versus the English, and knight f3, and I maybe prefer one line to the other, or I just want to switch it up. And this was not one of those cases, because he was meeting c4 with e6 and knight f3 with similar stuff. And he picked a line today where it wouldn't have mattered either. I could have gone c4, he would have went c5, and I could have went g3, he would have went c5, and I probably would have played c4 anyway. So it doesn't much matter. Oh man, tired. I've started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu again after probably something like a 1.5 year hiatus due to a lower back injury. Man, it feels good. Whoa. Interesting. So presumably he wants to take with the rook, or else you wouldn't really play that move. A lot of these, I'm just not able to predict Black's moves here. So if I just take on d4, presumably this hanging at the end is an issue. So knight d4, queen d4, rook d4, let's say rook e2. Do I have anything there? Probably not. Now here's an interesting idea: is e3. Actually, sort of a hilarious construction of pieces. So if I go e3 and he, whoops, what the hell was that? If I go e3 and he takes it, I can take back with the knight, and I don't think he has a way to stop all of the forks. That's kind of a funny idea. It also has the point that, yeah. I was going to say e3 if he just makes like a null move, though. But then I just play knight takes d4, queen takes d4, rook d4, and I have to be better there. So e3 might actually be really strong in this position. Maybe he has to go d3, though. e3, d3, queen d3, at least he gets to go knight e5. Yeah, that's actually kind of annoying, because then his knight's getting into the c4 square. e3, d3. That would be annoying if that move was just straight good. Might be e3, d3. There's not really another move besides queen takes and then knight e5. Yeah, I'm not in love with that, honestly. At the very least, he can even go something like e3, d3. Yeah, it takes knight e5. I guess if I go queen e2, but I was thinking about queen d4, but yeah. So the other option is to take here, take here, take here. I'm guessing his point is rook c4. Then I just go e3 maybe. Maybe I don't even want to go e3 though. Because if I go through e3, then f3 is weak. The bishop coming to b7 is a lot stronger. There's also e3, d3, knight to e1. I initially rejected this because of knight e5, knight takes d3, knight c4, which maybe was the correct decision. I really want e3 to work somehow, but I don't think it does. Can't find a friggin' move. How can that be possible? Yeah, there's always this. So e3, d3. I mean, I don't see any candidates besides queen takes or knight to e1, sadly. And queen takes knight to e5. Do I have anything awesome there? Queen c3 loses a queen to knight f3 check. That's out of the question. Queen d4 maybe. So e3, d3 takes, knight e5, queen d4. He can't go knight f3 check because I actually just take here and his queen is pinned to his king. He would be lost. That was my initial worry, so I guess that is not necessarily a concern. Yeah, I don't like the look of that. So maybe it's better to just go bishop takes c6 here, rook takes c6. No, I can't go queen takes d4. I'm guessing there's nothing there. Yeah, there's nothing there. It doesn't take very long to reject that. Oh, he can't go rook c4 because of knight b5. That changes everything. So what was his idea behind rook b6? Because takes here, takes here, takes here. Rook c4 I thought, but knight b5. Unless I'm missing something there. Knight b5. No, I don't think so. So if I just lob this thing off, maybe he just has to go back. Well, In any case, I don't have a lot of time to think about it, so I should probably just take this thing. So we have a pretty interesting bishop versus knight battle now. I potentially have some problems on my kingside light squares. That's a long ways away, though. There's also an idea, rook c6. Oh no, scratch that. Scratch that completely. I'm not even going to say what it was. So you can take with the d pawn as well. It feels weird to take with the d pawn after you've already played rook takes c6, but... Okay, and here, this would be met by this. Unless there's a trick. Takes, 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 takes. No, there's really no trick. All right. I think this is going to be one of those positions where I really desperately want to just solidify this knight on d4, but it could have pretty dramatic consequences at some point. So I think just as a mental note, I'm going to try and not play this move if I don't have to. If I could trade queens, I would play I would be much happier about playing e3, I think. I think it's probably the case that I'm a little bit better now. I don't somehow it feels like this knight is at least at the moment a little bit better than this bishop, and that black has more structural problems on the queen side. There's some amount of uncoordination here. Okay, rook a6. Where are you going with that thing? I'm going to play rook b3 a lot. Maybe I should just go rook b to c1. That also makes a lot of sense. Ooh, maybe... I was trying to debate whether or not d4 or c5 was the correct square for my knight. It feels like d4 is actually better. Protects e2, attacks here, also eyes this weak f5 square. And now that I think about putting my rook on c5, that seems very juicy. Attacking this pawn. Also this weak f5 square again. Maybe this is the way. He doesn't have any real entry points on the queen side yet. He can put his rook on a4. That's not a bad square. a3 doesn't really do anything. Are there any threats with rook d7? I don't think so. I think I'm just going to play this. Seems very logical. If only I could make this thing, you know, not guard this square. Oh man. I think those Skittles are starting to catch up with me. And by that I mean I think they're starting to raise my blood sugar to levels that make me tired. am playing. Yes. Second recording. I'm still recording. When am I going to be done? You know, you can just say it. I don't know. I have 13 minutes and he has 33 minutes. So, yeah. And good news, we get an additional 45 seconds every time we make a move, so. Could be like an hour. You're hungry? You can have some meatballs. I'm not going to stop you. I won't judge you. Sorry about that. I can't wait till I get accusations that my fiance, or she used to be my fiance, my wife is outside help. I'm not even sure she actually knows how all the pieces move. I'm 100% sure she doesn't know how to finish her game. I had a really interesting example of the practical endings number 2, I think it was. The outside rook pawn where the rook pawn is stopped on the 6th rank instead of the 7th. I just had it in a blitz game. I think I might make a video about it. Just as a practical example of that type of ending. I had less than 10 seconds on my clock for the entire ending. It was a 3+2 game, and I missed like 14 wins, but it was an interesting ending nonetheless. That's one of my favorite endings. I'm going to pause the recording again just in case, and I will return. Okay, and I'm back. Rook e8. Some of these moves are legitimately perplexing. I'm not sure what that does. Rook c5, maybe still? I kind of want to just play this move on general principles. Maybe rook c3 is actually better. Rook d8 is met by knight f5. Interesting though, rook d8, rook c3, rook d8, knight f5 check. Bishop takes f5, queen takes d8, queen takes c3, womp womp. All right, let's just play rook c5. This is also the type of position where I think, because it's hard to find counterplay necessarily for black, that I can make moves, and if I have to play rook c3 later, it's the tempo is not going to cost me all that much. I don't think. Maybe it's hicetnunc. I don't know. I really don't know. I should ask him, but I'm embarrassed, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to speculate. If you're French, chime in. Maybe it's something very obvious. Oh, I need to go back into Zen mode. Keep it classy. Truth be told, I kind of like going into Zen mode just so I can make shit fade in and out. That is super, super fun. I think I'd like to trade queens here. I'm pretty certain I would like to trade queens, and I would not want to trade a set of rooks. That's what I definitely do not lop these things off, and I think I would rather keep the rooks on. Reason being is I think mine are going to be more active on c5 and c1 than wherever his end up. I'm not totally certain how I make progress if he just plays something like bishop b7 here, though. I don't know. Whoops. Don't tell Vicky that I just dropped my ring. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to trade queens. You know, his king is kind of weak. But I guess to me, trading the queens off at first glance would pretty much remove all of his counterplay, and he would just be left passively defending this c6 pawn until somehow I found a way to make progress. But maybe even keeping the queens on is okay too. I'm not sure. I tweaked my knee at jiu-jitsu. It's a little sore. Maybe one idea for black here is to just go bishop b7 and try and get in rook a1. Trade off a set of rooks. Feels like it could be useful. Could really use a nap right about now. Yeah, it's kind of hard to find moves in this position for black, honestly. I mean, this rook only has one square available to it. These types of moves, I mean, this looks incredibly passive. This is also somewhat passive and leaves the bishop a little bit vulnerable on the d file. Rook d8 loses. You know, so it's becoming a little bit hard to come up with useful moves. Meanwhile, I think white still has some easy sort of really. What's your trick there? Knight f5, I thought. Oh, don't actually want to make it yet. Knight f5 check. What the heck? Okay, there is queen takes here, but I think actually just queen takes d8. And I'm still attacking his queen. Yeah, that looks good. Bishop f5 takes. Knight f5, bishop f5 takes. Rook a1. There's king g2. He plays bishop h3 first. At the very least, I can play f3 or just pull a rook back. So what the heck is this all about? Excuse me. This is not totally computing here, guys. Sorry, I'm just trying to blunder check here real quick. Knight f5 check. What the heck? I mean, if he moves the king, I just take on d8. If he takes on f5, bishop takes f5, taking on d8. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Knight f5, bishop f5, queen d8, queen d8. I mean, this is the only trick I can see. Rook a1. Okay, but king g2. Yeah, and there's just bishop e4, bishop f3. Takes. Bishop h3 first. Yeah, there's just f3 again. All right, this is just it, I think. Nothing really to it. It was just a one-move tactic, I guess. Black's queen doesn't really even have a great square, honestly. It's kind of a bummer, honestly, if I just win the exchange like that and that ends up being sort of it, because it was an interesting game. And honestly, I think I was pretty convincingly outprepared in the opening, and I had to struggle to get a reasonable position, and then I think Black just started drifting a little bit. I mean, this was just an outright mistake, I think, but especially given the fact that he's thinking here, there's no trap. Bummer. Yeah, I mean, what does he play here? Something like queen g6, I guess. Maybe not queen g6, rook d6. Queen g6, rook d6, rook a1, king g2. Bishop e4, f3 is nothing, I think. But there's queen g6, rook d6, check there, queen h5. Whoops. Threatening bishop h3 mate. That would be relatively serious. But the f5, the f5 bishop is hanging, so. Yeah, weird mistake. All right. This is hanging. He really only has... so he's going to try and buckle down here. Putting the bishop on d5 is really his only hope. Let's see. Can I take and just be winning? Probably. I can also just go e4. Maybe easier, but taking is also quite clear. Takes, and I take here, and he can't defend the b5 pawn either. Okay, but that might actually be kind of hard to win. I mean, not hard. I'm up 2 pawns, but that's a long ass grind. Because his rook will be behind my outside passer, and it's I have to make the other e-pawn. That seems like a lot of work. But there's also e4, rook a2 check. King h3, bishop e6. That's g4 is forced, and that looks kind of annoying also. There's e4, king, rook e4, rook a2, king g1. Okay, but 2 pawns up and a rook ending is also just completely winning. What do I choose? In a blitz game, I'd play e4 in like 2 seconds, but so e4, rook a2, king g1, rook a1 check, king f2, rook a2, king e3. Let's say bishop c4. h4 maybe. Takes. Rook h2. I mean, that's not all that clean either, honestly. I'm really reluctant to do this. It should be a win, though. I think it's just a theoretical win. This is the exact same scenario that I talked about in my Practical Rook Endings, Volume 1. I take here. Let's say he plays rook a2. I play king f2. He goes rook b2. I take on b5. and I have an outside B pawn with a passive rook. But I can make a passed E pawn at some point. And so I can put my rook on B8, I can put my pawn on B7, and then I can just make an E pawn, I think. But it'll be a long win. That's for sure. Really? Wow. That was an unusual resignation. Huh. Okay, even Stockfish likes this line. So this must be kind of stinky. I kind of thought this. Oh, there's Rook D2. I thought I had to go like this. Oh, I didn't see H5 either. Oh, I would have definitely played this way if I saw H5. Crap. Okay, so let's take a look at this in more detail. Like I said, I prepared more for lines that would end up following this. I think my opponent had 2 games where he played like C6, so I spent most of my time looking at this. Let's shoot this into the study actually before I get too into this. Yeah, like my opponent typically played like this move order, and you know, he reached this position from multiple different ways. Actually, I think in his database people only played B3 against him, but I was planning on playing D4, C6, and then I think against this specific move order, knight C3 is the best move. If black were to have played something like, I don't know, C6, D4, knight D7, then I think queen C2 is the best move. Kind of hard to explain why. Maybe I should now that I sprinkled that on you guys. I think the basic difference is that in this position, if I were to go queen to C2, he could go B6, and on knight B to D2, he could go bishop B7, E4, and then knight to A6. And he could put the knights on A6. And if I go E5, he can put this knight on D7. Instead, in this variation with the knight already on D7, if he goes, let's say, castles, knight B to D2, E4, bishop B7, same exact position. This knight has to go to the E8 square, and oops, let's delete that. These knights are not particularly well placed on this square compared to having them on A6 and D7 instead. So I think that's sort of the difference. And so you can go queen C2, knight B to D2, E4 when the knight's already on D7, but when the knight's not on D7 already, there's some logic in going knight to C3 instead. And now if knight to D7, there are a couple different ways to play. I think I was planning on going B3 here, just the usual move, and then on B6, queen to D3 was what I was looking at. Just intending to go E4 very quickly. And there are some finesses here, like black can go wow, that's an interesting bug. Is anyone else seeing this? It's black's turn and the explorer is just am I dumb or what? No, the explorer doesn't do anything. Why are you doing this to me? Interesting. I killed something. What the hell is happening? All right. Ah, it's back. All right. It just needed a refresh of some kind. Yeah, there are some subtleties here. Like if black goes knight b to d7, an interesting idea is to go. Oh man, it's broken again. Okay, this is bizarre. I've killed everything at this point. All right, well, let's just a6, man. What is breaking here? Oh, I think my stockfish was killing it for some reason. Okay, anywho. This move is interesting. I feel like actually I feel like maybe a3 is stupid. Yeah, I've seen all this crap before. h6. Wow, white scores great in the top games in this. They're all super old though. No one's castled here. Ah, queen d2 first. Yeah, but people are castling anyway, and then castles. Okay, so it's pretty much the same. I was a little bit worried that if I went queen h6, that rook e8 would be annoying. Ah, but there's even d3 first. It's true. It's yeah, this is kind of terrifying. But maybe so a lot of times people reach this same line. Oh, so you have to go all the way back actually because I started with one knight f3. A lot of times this line is reached via this move order instead. And now white plays a3. This is the move that's recommended in the dynamic English. It's also recommended by Christoph Solecki in his series on Chess 24, and black goes a6 here, rook b1, rook b8, takes, and then white goes knight to f3, and then black can go d5 or e5. And this is the way this position is normally reached, and at least to me it feels more logical for black to go a6 after white has played kind of a do-nothing, not do-nothing, but a slower move a3. So I'm wondering if maybe in this position there's something more active that I could go for, like castles, rook b8, and now maybe something else. Okay, so yeah, this makes sense. This is a similar idea to what I discussed in the game. And if he goes b5, though, wow, takes, a4. What if b4? Ah, knight b5, and then I'm just going to go d4. Yeah, this plan is probably better. A6 and rook b8 obviously don't do a lot to help black get his king out of the center and finish development, so it makes sense to try and open up the game with d4. I mean, just meeting flank action with center action, but I was a little bit worried about my knight getting kicked around, like d4, b4, and I guess this was just sort of seeing ghosts, though. Like, at least to my eye, this position right away doesn't look unbelievable for white or anything. Stockfish likes it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'd want to play it. This is weird. I don't like having this isolated d pawn. It would be much more compelling if knight to f6 was already in and d5 couldn't be met by knight e5, but I have no idea. I mean, this position is just weird. a3 was probably stupid because going into this is... I was only more familiar with d5, d4, and then either bishop f5 or I think knight f6. I've looked at this position a little bit. It's been a really long time, though. I think I thought it was about equal. Yeah, and this is pretty much forced. Pretty much forced. Okay, so who played knight to f6? Some guy I've never heard of. Yeah, I think queen takes f6 is sort of forced. Bishop g5, queen to e6. Yeah, bishop f4. This is something I looked at. Rook a8. Oh, knight g5 immediately. I didn't see knight g5. But knight e4 is a pretty serious idea. Queen c4, bishop d6. Yeah, okay, this position is awesome. I mean, this is compensation. And if rook b6, knight g5. Ah, that's the way. Very tricky. This way, not as exciting. Yeah, rook here, d3. No, this is not. Bishop f1 feels bad. Knight e1 immediately, I think, was pretty. This is the position that I thought I was going to get either way, honestly. Maybe this is what I should have just started with instead of going bishop f1, but I went bishop f1 to try and coax him into something like this. Except, yeah, I realized that queen e7 is maybe a little bit annoying here. Yeah. In this trick. Why is this so great? Oh, is knight g4 a threat? Oh, b4 is hanging in that case. Ah, there's always just knight. That's okay. So you have to see that knight f7 is a threat. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, 5 moves deep into the combination. I would have definitely never saw that. Okay. That's impossible. Some of these moves just kind of boggled me a little bit. Like g5, I still don't totally understand the idea. And I think the weakening of the king and the f5 square ends up being like at least moderately significant. I mean, like it's pretty clear in this position that I have a very easy plan of going bishop g2, knight c2, and winning back the d4 pawn. And I feel like there are more moves that are relevant to the position once I play these moves than g5. I don't totally understand what the idea was. So I think it's likely that this move is a little bit dubious. And then rook b6 again. Maybe his plan was what I saw too, and he wanted to go here and try and force something like e3 and then bishop b7, etc. And maybe he also missed that b5 was hanging because I didn't see it at first either. I'm not sure. Because once you have to take with the d pawn here, this thing. I'm so bad with making the orange. Give me orange, yes. Okay, yeah, it feels like this thing is a little bit misplaced. And I don't know, this position feels already just better for white a little bit. Yeah, I looked at rook b3, I think. But I wasn't certain. Rook c1 just seems more straightforward. And there was this cute issue I noticed where if I go rook c3, rook d8, there isn't bishop f5 anymore, which is funny. Because this thing's hanging at the end. But rook c5 is very natural anyway. Yeah, and rook d8 is just a one move blunder. I mean, there's nothing really to say about it. And here I can play mostly anything. Stockfish wants to play king f2, but this move is also very, very easy. Takes, rook a2 here, rook b2, rook b5. I think this is what I looked at. And again, I think in this position, I'd rather have an a pawn, but I have a b pawn. Oh, excuse me. But I don't think it much matters. Because I'm just going to make a passed e pawn somehow. some way. Let's just say king g6, rook b8. I'll just go with the plan. Black's king honestly can't move too far. Let's just say king f6, b5, king g6, b6, king f6. I think I can even go b7. Let's say king g7. He just keeps his king hidden. I think even, let's see. King f1. I don't even think I have to really do all that much. My first thought was f4. I don't think it much matters. Yeah, I mean, let's just say he just continues to shuffle back and forth. It's hard to find actual moves. Yeah, and eventually I just go e7 and that's it. But even if, let's say, he played some other move like rook b3, I think, is e6 winning yet? I mean, okay, he could check me like a billion times, but yeah, there's just nothing. I mean, he can't go here because of rook g8 and then queens. He has to keep his rook on the b file. That's one of the problems. And if he goes king f6, it allows rook f8 check, takes rook b8, and I win the rook. So it's pretty much it. I mean, that's the sort of strategy for this sort of ending. If you can make a past e or f pawn, if you guys recall from the series, then it's over. And in this specific case, I think I can. He could be probably a little bit more obstinate by checking me here and going back, but I don't think it matters. I can just put my king on the h3 square and then play e5, f4. Won't make too much difference. This is why I was saying, like, okay, I'm winning, but it could be many, many more moves before I actually win. So, okay, I hope you guys enjoyed the game. I will be back with more content very soon. Bye, guys.